You've probably caught yourself doing this at some point. A small moment passes, maybe a conversation, a decision, or something you said earlier that day. And later, your mind quietly starts asking a question. What if I had said something different? Most people think this habit means someone is overthinking, or that they just can't let things go. But that explanation doesn't really capture what's happening inside the mind. Because when people start imagining different what-if outcomes, something deeper is usually going on. And if you've ever noticed your mind drifting into these alternate versions of the same moment, you might recognize why. Think about a familiar situation. You leave a conversation with someone. It seemed normal at the time, but hours later, your mind starts replaying it. What if I answered that question differently? What if they meant something else? What if I misunderstood the whole situation? It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, just a quiet mental rewind. If you tend to notice these patterns in yourself or in other people, you might already understand something interesting about human behavior. Some people naturally observe their own thoughts the same way they observe the world around them. And once you start paying attention, the psychology behind these what-if thoughts becomes more interesting than it first appears. Because people imagine alternate outcomes for very different reasons. For some people, it's the brain trying to prepare for the future. By replaying possibilities, the mind is quietly asking, if this ever happens again, what should I do differently? For others, it's about understanding social signals. Human interactions are complex, and the brain sometimes revisits moments just to decode them more clearly. Then there are people whose minds naturally explore possibilities. They don't just see one version of an event, they see several. And that tendency often shows up in small, everyday moments. Someone rethinking how a conversation could have gone, imagining how a different decision might have changed the outcome of a day, or briefly wondering how life would look if one small choice had gone another direction. On the surface, it looks like overthinking, but the brain is often doing something much simpler. It's trying to reduce future regret. Human beings are wired to anticipate consequences. Our minds simulate possibilities so we can feel a little more prepared for uncertainty. But here's the part most people misunderstand. Sometimes what-if thinking isn't about the past at all. It's actually about protecting the future. When the brain imagines different outcomes, it's quietly building mental maps, small simulations that help us navigate situations we might face again later. And if you've ever noticed yourself doing this more than other people, there's usually a reason. People who think this way often have minds that naturally look for patterns, meaning, and alternative perspectives. Their thoughts don't just settle for what happened, they explore what could have happened. And that habit reveals something deeper about human nature. Because at its core, imagining what-if scenarios is connected to one of our most fundamental needs, the need to feel prepared for the unknown. To believe that next time, we'll understand the situation just a little better. So maybe the real question isn't why some people think about what-if moments more than others, but what it might reveal about how their minds quietly try to understand the world. And once you start noticing that pattern, you begin to see it in yourself and in other people far more often than you expected.